Greetings once again, my friends, and live from Retro Central, my name is Peter, and this is another episode of Consolation. As always, I thank you very much for taking the time to check out my work today. I really do appreciate it. Today's date is October 26th, 2015, which makes today the 15th anniversary of the launch of the PlayStation 2 in retail stores across the United States. PlayStation 2, one of the most successful video game consoles of all time, and it really jumped out of the gate in terms of popularity. Retail stores could never get enough stock of this thing for the rest of 2000, from October all the way through the holiday season. There were lines out the door. When shipments would come in, they would be gone instantly. Waiting lists were miles long. Opportunistic thieves would try and make it off with PlayStation 2s and sell them at ridiculously high rates. And even some retailers took advantage of the popularity and sold some pretty high-priced bundles that people really didn't want. PlayStation 2 is not only a games machine, but it also played DVD movies, which made it very attractive for families. DVD technology was something that was up and coming, and this was a very affordable DVD player for the home. So it had a lot of things going for it. It was very popular in 2000 during the holiday season, and a lot of people wanted one. Just about everyone I knew wanted one, except for one person. And you're looking at him. It was me. See, in the fall of 2000, leading through the holiday season, I was content with what I had. And what I had was pretty formidable. My Dreamcast, which I had bought in September of 1999, which I had dropped more than $700 on at launch between games, accessories, and the hardware itself. Games were still coming out at a pretty regular rate, and a lot of them were awesome first-party games, plus some arcade ports or arcade compilations, a few RPGs here and there, sports games. I mean, the Dreamcast had a great library at the time. Then, of course, was the PlayStation. In my last episode of Consolation, I talked about the summer of Square and how Squaresoft had perhaps its most productive year ever in 2000, releasing games like Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy IX, Legend of Mana, Vagrant Story, bunch of games all in a row, and it was a fantastic year for PlayStation owners. Also, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, the game that came out the same day that Chrono Cross did, the game that actually got a lot more gameplay than Chrono Cross ever did. So I was happy with both the PlayStation and with the Dreamcast at the time. Plus, the Nintendo 64 was still getting games of its own. So I had a decent lineup of video game consoles and video games to play. So I really didn't need a PlayStation 2. And I remember going into my local electronics boutique one day. It was a couple of days before the PlayStation 2 had launched, and I'm looking at games like Madden 2001 and NHL 2001 and SSX and Swing Away Golf, and they looked interesting. I won't debate that. But when the person behind the counter asked me why I hadn't pre-ordered a PS2, the answer was simple. I was happy with where I was. I didn't need to spend any more money. I wanted to spend the money on games for systems that I already had. Looking back in retrospect, it's probably the beginning in my console game buying career of when I started to not be quite as excited for video game launches. I had already gone in on the Dreamcast, and I think that was pretty much my tipping point. So I was happy through the rest of 2000. Then came January of 2001, something that I've talked about on camera before and I've written about before. Talking about the day that Sega wrote out the death sentence for the Dreamcast and discontinued it. Probably one of my least favorite days in video game history. I was angry. I was upset. I put all of my Dreamcast stuff into a variety of bags, put it in my car. I was sick that day too. Brought it to my local independent video game store, which is Fantasy Realms in West Springfield, Massachusetts. Miss you, guy, by the way. Traded it all in, wound up walking out of there with a new PS2. I got lucky. It was the last one he had in stock. And walked out with a bunch of games and a couple of memory cards, and I was good to go. And from that day forward, I have not been without a PlayStation 2 system somewhere in my console library. Other systems have come and gone, from the PlayStation to the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube to the Xbox, and others. But the PlayStation 2 platform has always been there since January of 2001, without fail. It is one of my favorite video game platforms of all time. As a matter of fact, it's my second favorite, eclipsed only by the NES. There are a few reasons for that. The first reason is because the variety of games in the PlayStation 2's library is, in my opinion, unequaled. The Xbox 360 does come close. Of course, the Xbox 360 has had a 10-year run and continues to run to this day. But the PlayStation 2 library not only has a wide variety of games, but so many of the games are top quality. From RPGs to adventure games to run and guns to shooters to horror games to sports games to board games to family games to really niche games that only a small amount of people were interested in. Ribbit King, for example. I mean, there were just so many games available for the system. Even the 770 plus games that I have now only scratches the surface for what is available for the platform. It truly is a fantastic library, and if you're a budding collector and you haven't started gathering games for a PS2, now is a good time to do it before the prices inevitably start to rise. It is a fantastic platform in that regard. The other thing about the PS2 that really keeps it close to my heart and keeps it high on my list of favorite platforms of all time is because it's when I started writing about video games more than just a hobby. When I got my PlayStation 2 in 2001, that's when video game review opportunities started to come my way. When I started to write for websites rather than writing just for fun. When I started to make a little bit of money writing reviews every now and again. The PlayStation 2 afforded me the opportunity to review Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, under a deadline. It was the first time that I ever dealt with a review deadline before. I learned how to budget my time. I learned how to take notes. I learned how to write drafts really quickly. And I learned how to work under pressure. And those would be lessons that I would carry with me through the rest of my writing career before I stepped away from video game journalism in 2013. So those things, and other memories too, some not so great, like the day that, or the period of time that my wife and I were separated before our divorce, and me getting used to not having her around and dealing with the pressure that came from that. And the PlayStation 2 provided me some solace and some distraction to get away from difficulties in my life. And honestly, from 2001, from late 2001 through about 2004 or so, it was one of the most difficult periods of my life, dealing with a lot of health issues at the time. And the PlayStation 2 again gave me that fortress of solitude, that island of refuge that I could go to kind of leave all of life's problems behind for just a little while. It's hard to put into words, and I know it's stupid to say because it's just a video game console. It's just a toy. But to me, the PlayStation 2 is more than that. It has been a part of my life for almost 15 years now, and has afforded me a great number of opportunities and a great many hours of enjoyment. And for that, I will always be grateful. And that's my look at the PlayStation 2 on its 15th anniversary. You can see the bouncer over here off to my left. A game that doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, I wanted to say happy 15th to the PlayStation 2. Thanks to Sony for supporting it for as long as they did. And really, I hope that that the system has a lot more homes than just mine. It is a great platform with a great number of games for it. It's really cheap. And I hope that people will find homes for a lot of these games that are kicking around in thrift stores and tag sales and video game stores that no one else seems to want. It's really a worthwhile investment if you can find a good one. Thanks for watching this episode of Consolation, everybody. I really do appreciate it. And until the next time, my friends, take care of yourselves.